And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this. You know what? It's a shitty Wednesday night. It is now Thursday morning, my time. I am staying up way too late to talk about this stupid team that doesn't appear to care about any of this stuff. It was the biggest game of their season. They did not. They showed up. I think we can't say that they didn't show up because I thought they opened the game very well. But then as soon
Yeah.
as they got any adversity whatsoever, they folded. And you saw a 40-point swing in the matter of a quarter and a half. And there's any number of places that we can go here. We could talk about Darvin. We could talk about rotations. We could talk about, even Darvin said after the game that he should have challenged Anthony Davis's fourth foul. That's a first. Not him fucking up a challenge situation, but him acknowledging that he did so. It was we could name any number of things, but honestly, Raj, like if we're gonna have any serious conversation about this game, it starts and frankly ends with Anthony Davis getting absolutely obliterated by Domantis Sabonis again. Sabonis moves to 9-0 against Anthony Davis for their careers. That's just, at some point you got to have some pride, man.
I can't believe that's a real stat that like Sabonis is 9-0 versus AD. I think Sabonis is in the Eastern Conference for a few of those, so maybe 2 games a season. Yeah, that's wild. It's something about these big physical skilled centers that just gives him real issues. And this is the second game in 3 tries where AD has been completely just non-existent, especially in the fourth quarter or in the second half versus Denver, and then tonight against the Kings. And yeah, it's tough. I just think Anthony gets into this flow, and obviously he looked like he was upset, and just the refs were in his head all night, which is again a similar thing that happens versus Denver. But yeah, Sabonis just owns him. And I thought you made a good point on the playback we were doing, that Sabonis also has a high motor. So you mix in very physical, skilled, and high motor, and it just gives him real issues. Like Sabonis, before this season, if you remember, even when Sabonis got traded, I remember to Sacramento, people were talking about Sabonis like an undersized 5. Like they were wondering, can he hold up as a center for Sacramento? And for that to flip to now where he's kind of the more physically bruising guy in this matchup is tough. He dominated the boards once again. I thought his pick and roll game and his just ability to play out of the high post and dribble handoff just gives us real issues. And he's a guy that also goes through AD's chest. That's also those are also players
That's
that
the
just
biggest one for me.
Yeah,
It's just like,
AD can get at the
as
top,
soon
but
as the referees decide they aren't calling stuff, AD just seems to kind of wilt, I know that getting punked and softness and stuff like that is taboo language to use and semantics to use here, but I don't know what else to say, right? Like
no.
there was a play, it was an absolutely pivotal stop that the Lakers could have gotten. The Lakers were up or down. They had cut the lead down from 20 to like 12 or so, maybe even 10. And AD is in position to get a rebound. Sabonis goes right through him, grabs the rebound from AD. Either they scored on some way there, whether it was Sabonis with the putback or kicking it out to somebody else there for the opportunity to score. And it was, I don't know what else to say, man. Like I'm an older fan. Growing up, when I would see something like this on a basketball court that I was watching or from a basketball team that I am watching, there was no other language that I would use other than, yeah, that guy got punked. That guy was, Sabonis just freaking owned him tonight. And Jokic seems to own him. Nurkic out physicaled him as well. And, again, the central focus here, no pun intended, is Anthony Davis. And it's his, consistent no showing against players like that once those guys get into a rhythm. And there's again, we could talk about Ham, we could talk about D'Lo, we could talk about Austin's turnovers, we could talk about whatever you want to talk about, but like, to me, you lose when your best player plays like shit, period.
100%. And just to bring this on the court a little bit, because I don't disagree with you. I think, tonight was just a product of what's been happening with AD. He just gets removed mentally from games. Like his engagement just drops, especially when he's not involved offensively. But Anthony, honestly, like if you just look at it, what this is a product of, because both of us, we watched that 2020 season. This happened here and there, but just not as frequent, right? What
Yeah.
happened to me is AD completely losing any confidence in his jump shot. Right, that's completely gone, and not just jump shot, because I think people look at that as just a 3-pointer or a spot up, but just any shot from
Yeah.
outside the paint, right? So any basket that comes a field goal outside the paint, and I always say this: go watch Giannis. Giannis will come up the floor, Anthony, and take a transition three, and it will pull Bucks fans' hairs out. But the reason he does that is to keep himself engaged in the game, to keep himself offensively
Yeah.
engaged, where he's like, I'm feeling the basketball, I'm involved, not really a threat. No one's guarding Giannis out there. And not comparing the players, these two guys, just as their skill sets. But AD will go a quarter and a half with no shot
But why
and be
wouldn't you,
completely.
Raj? They're both 6'11" pterodactyls who are thoroughly capable of absolutely dominating and taking over games. Except one guy has the mentality to do so consistently, and the other guy doesn't. Right? Like
No,
he
that
doesn't.
that that's totally fair, and I think AD at least was supposed to be more like you split them up, and AD is supposed to be more in the skill box, right? And Giannis has obviously completely just changed his game as a playmaker. He's gotten a lot better in that fact. But even with all that said, AD losing. I remember when we got AD, it was like, man, this guy has every floater in the game. You remember that? And the and one
Yeah.
floaters he would get. What happened to all of the ball handling stuff? That would just made that's what made AD special to me, his ability to get the ball and
Pete
be.
was calling
You
him a
talk
big wing. Like Pete was coming
it,
on, like when we were talking about him, we weren't talking about him as a big. We were talking about him as like a giant wing.
That's what it is, and he's now become a center, which again, centers have, unless you're super special like Jokic and Embiid, who's more of a scoring threat. Centers, it's tough to be just the extreme hub of an offense if you have no jump shot. It's just really tough. If you can't shoot outside the paint, teams can take you away from the rim, and it makes it a lot tougher to score. And I think that's really what's happened. And you've combined that, him absolutely losing all faith in a shot outside the paint, and you get nights like tonight where everything has to be a dunk. He has to be set up at the rim. And then the plays where he gets the ball, Anthony. So we were watching, I think the Lakers came out of a timeout or the half, I don't remember. And we ran the play for AD,
It was a
right? It was a
half.
post up on the half. We ran the play for AD. And what did he do? Sabonis is able to, Sabonis has a low center of gravity. He can kind of push him out. And Sabonis was pushing him way farther than he wanted to catch the ball today. But he pushes
Yeah.
him out, and AD takes a fadeaway jumper, and he's kind of asking for the foul on that. And you were like, you're not getting that call. And I think
Yeah.
Sabonis comes down the other way and gets an and one. That to me all stems from no confidence in the jump shot, which takes away any counter. So if you have no counter, people know what you want to do, and it just kills your offensive game. And I think that's part of it, combined with the mental stuff of him just absolutely being just disengaged on offense.
So we have quite the audience right now. So a quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button if you're watching here on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter, go to youtube.com/@LakersLounge. This is where you could subscribe to the show. I am Anthony Irwin of LakersDaily.com. I'm their Lakers insider. Raj is of everything, man. Like he is of All Access Lakers, Lakers Detailed. This show, hopefully, especially hopefully soon as this show's budget starts expanding, will be officially a member of this team here shortly. That's the plan. But yeah, I the other thing too. So the sequence that you're talking about there, I think, is really important to single out because it is so exemplary of Anthony Davis on these bad nights, right? Where he's complaining about a foul when he starts the play fading away. And so, like, for a referee, if you see a player starting to fade away and any contact happens, you're saying, well, you were already fading. How did it impact the play? How did the contact impact the play? And then on the other end, when Domantis Sabonis gets the and one, you get the and one there because Anthony Davis is out of position because he spent the whole way up the court wanting to referee. So he's out of position in the first place. And two, Sabonis gets that call there because the contact occurs as Sabonis is going to the rim. And it, like, whatever contact that happens there does impact the play. And
Sure.
all game tonight, like, it wasn't just against Sabonis either. There was a play against Harrison Barnes where he missed, a 2 foot,
A bunny.
jump hook or something like that, where the reason he missed it is because he caught it 2 feet away from the basket, but he actually releases the shot 4 feet from the basket because he's fading away on Harrison fucking Barnes. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, this is a team. This is like, other than Sabonis, because Sabonis goes out of the game. The guy who comes in for him is Trey Lyles, who I remember entering the league as a wing. Like, he was not a center when he entered the league. And I swear to God, every time I see him, he gets bigger. But like in this one, this is a team, especially when Sabonis is out of the game, this is a team that he should be dominating. It's essentially like what the Thunder look like. But no, so even when Sabonis goes out, because he takes AD out of his rhythm, Anthony Davis just becomes soft. Like, he becomes a worse version of himself that is reluctant to get to the rim, reluctant to get even to the free throw line, because he begins the game by missing an open mid-range jumper. So he doesn't want to get to the free throw line either.
Right.
Like, we've talked about this before, Raj. To me, the best way to get Anthony Davis going is to run something that gets him moving to the basket so that he gets to the free throw line, whether it's on an and one or whatever. But he needs something getting to the free throw line so that it gets him into a rhythm. He can actually see with this motion, a shooting motion, the ball go through the basket. Either that, or you got to hope that he gets a putback dunk that really unlocks the rest of his game. Because otherwise, especially against these kinds of matchups, whether it's Nurkic, whether it's Sabonis, whether it's Jokic, I think Zubats sometimes gives him trouble. Andre Drummond has had great games against him as well. I remember, dude, this goes back to like when AD was at his peak, right? When Anthony Davis was like the up and coming superstar who people were looking at and saying that guy is going to be the best player in the league someday. There was a game that the Lakers played against AD, and this was back when I forget who their starting center was. But basically, in that game, the only guy that they had was like a rookie or second-year Zubats. And Zubats completely punked him, completely out-physicaled him. And I'm thinking, wow, one, we probably don't want to eventually trade this guy for Mike Muscala, talking about Zubats. Two, like Anthony Davis, that's how you get to this guy. Is he doesn't like that kind of physicality, and that has been the theme over the course of his career, with a couple of outlier performances here and there.
Well, here's my barometer for AD every single time, right? Because this is what year 5 of Anthony Davis, year 6 of LeBron. Time is absolutely flying, but we've watched AD for a while. To me, his barometer is always Anthony. It is offensive rebounding and how much he's getting to the line, right? 5 free throws tonight for AD, and I thought a lot of them were kind of just these ticky-tack fouls, not really putting his... when AD is dominating a ball game, and that's usually how he gets to his 40 to 45 points, when he has those kind of outlier scoring performances. And then 1 offensive rebound tonight. The Kings completely took him off the boards, right? He had 10 defensive rebounds, but 1 offensive rebound. So that's where, again, if you don't have a jump shot, if you're like, so Sacramento sent help in the post. They weren't hard doubles, but they were kind of these where, players were pinching in from the strong side, and AD still kind of struggles with those type of double teams. He's still like very efficient as a post scorer, but like that's where he can kind of really get disengaged. And I think he's more than happy. And this can sometimes be a positive for a superstar, Anthony, where like this is kind of put in positive, like a positive tone a lot of times, right? Like the star is more than happy to take a backseat to role players. They usually say that in a positive light when a star can kind of, allocate shots to his teammates. But AD is kind of leans too far in that direction. Like tonight, again, I think he's more than happy to just, and I think this is what our offensive base is. Our offensive kind of base sets for Darvin are pick and roll basketball, because we start 2 guards in Austin, D'Lo. That's where they like to cook. LeBron and AD also run ball screens throughout a game. So AD will kind of get lost in the universe of a screener, right? And he'll just kind of get used to that. And a quarter will go by before he takes a shot. And then people see in the 4th quarter, and people like me as well will bring it up. AD had 2 shots in the 4th. And a lot of it, if you probably talk to AD, is like, look, I haven't shot in 2 quarters. I'm in no offensive rhythm, and that's a lot of it's his fault as well. Why am I going to take shots down the stretch of a close game? So it's kind of this just, self-fulfilling prophecy that just keeps happening against, big, teams that have big centers. Nurkic does this to AD, Sabonis, Jokic, like these big kind of bulky centers. You just brought up Zubac. He plays AD really well too. Like the last game against the Clippers that we won, it was Daniel Tice, who, just doesn't have as much in his back pocket as Zuda. So I think that's where AD kind of gets lost. Even in the Denver game to close that, more than happy just giving the ball up to Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves. to run late game offense. So much so that our most successful plays against Denver in the fourth were Austin, LeBron pick and roll, and AD in the dunker spot. Which again, he's effective from there, but he's completely removed from the play if he's not getting it, right at the rim to dunk. So it's frustrating to watch, and I just cannot I just cannot buy that AD is just this only defensive center. Like I still think he's too skilled, too big,
Then
too
he's not a
physical.
star. Then he's not then he's not a superstar. Like if you're
Right.
talking about a guy and you're basically excusing him not impacting the game on the other end of the court, then he's not the superstar that we want to believe that he is, right? Like earlier this year, and by the way, I made this case too. So I'm holding my own feet to the fire here as well. In that, like, if we're saying, and earlier this year, we were saying, well, if the Lakers had won more, Anthony Davis would figure into the MVP candidate. And why doesn't this guy ever win Defensive Player of the Year stuff? And why is this and why in that? And it's like Defensive Player of the Year. I think that's a fair question to ask. But what I would say though is that like if we keep on offering up disclaimers and offering up asterisks to the way that Anthony Davis plays and the way that he impacts the basketball game, then he isn't a superstar, right? And you could say, and by the way, I would say the same about like Luka in some stretches where I know I know he does like incredible things on a basketball court and stuff like that, but when Luka, when it is just excused away that Luka, a big wing, doesn't impact the game defensively or actively hurts his team defensively, I would say he doesn't belong in that like top 3 to 5 conversation that people keep forcing him into. And with Anthony Davis, we keep on forcing him. We keep hoping. And by the way, I totally understand. Like, this is what fans do. We hope. I hope to one day be wrong in saying this stuff about Anthony Davis. I hope that this guy eventually wakes up and plays with a little bit of fucking pride when this guy is 0 for 9, 0 for life against Domantis Sabonis. And I think Sabonis is a fine player. Like I think he's a good regular season player. He got shoved in a locker by Kevon Looney, though. It's just like I just don't understand how that stat is there. If we know about the stat, they do. How do you not show up for this one? And by the way, that's like ignoring, like that's not even before we get to the fact that this is the biggest game the Lakers have played this season. Like everything going into this game would have indicated this is one where Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and LeBron showed up. Like I don't have anything really to say about LeBron here, but this is one where your superstar and your best player, your most talented player right now, has to carry you to a big home win against a team that you were trying to catch in the standings, and yet nope, he got absolutely punked from the very beginning of this one and throughout. Sabonis finishes with the triple double. Anthony Davis may as well finish with a triple single. It was just a bad game from him, and one that was like the worst part about this, Raj. We do all access Lakers with Rome. He bet on the under on Anthony Davis, and I know how you feel about that stuff or whatever.
Nasty.
I know what people are how people are gonna feel about betting against the Lakers and winning money betting against the Lakers. That's a completely different conversation. The point that I want to make here, though, is that this was predictable. You knew this was coming.
Right. That's totally fair. And look, Sabonis gives him trouble. Jokic gives him trouble. And these aren't like excuses. I think, given some reasons why I think AD likes to win. He can dominate players where he has in like overall physical overpowering matchup against. Like, I think that's why we play OKC so well, right? Because they start like Chet Holmgren. He's able to really go through him, get offensive rebounds on him. And we have to figure this out. Like, this is not something you can go in the playoffs with. Every, playoff team is going to have some type of big man. And and I just like the disappointing thing to me though, and the biggest thing for like just this game, just in like a larger sense, is a lot of these playoff teams, they know exactly what they want to go to when they're in a pinch, right? When they're in trouble, they have these like principles that they stand by. No matter what happens, whether they lose by 30, win by 30, there's these principles like, hey, our backs are against the walls. This is what we do. And I still feel like we're searching for that. Like when our backs get, against the wall, we start, we get even worse. We have nothing to like stand by. And a lot of it is, okay, Austin, it's your turn. Then D'Lo, here's your turn. Then LeBron, here's your turn. And then AD's like, hey, I have Harrison Barnes on me as you pointed, and we take 20 seconds to throw in post entry pass because they're ball denying from the front, right? And like he catches it at the free throw line sometimes when he's, you know, standing under the rim. It's just like a lot of stuff where we just don't have a plan. And but you look at the other side, Sacramento's like, it's gonna be Darren Fox and Malik Monk pick and roll all night. Stop us.
Yeah.
Like, I dare you, stop us. Like, make us counter that, and we'll play out of that. And us are like, here's an 80 post up. That didn't work. All right, that didn't work. Scratch that. Austin,
we're going to
your
Rui
turn.
for 4 straight possessions.
Yeah,
we're going to Austin.
Exactly.
We're going to D. Yeah.
Right. Like, here's Rui. Rui, go attack Kevin Huerter. And Rui's like, all right. So he drives one time. They help on that. They do it one more time. It's a turnover. All right, scratch that. LeBron, pick and roll. Let's attack Sabonis in, you know, on the move on pick and roll. And then LeBron does, like, it's just a lot of stuff, but we're just not cohesive. And we're just getting outplayed where you lose a 17-point lead in 3 minutes. So that's it's frustrating as hell. And AD just has to be better. Like, you're not going to win where AD has what he finished with 15 points tonight, you know, 13 against Denver, 2 shots in the second half, you know, it's 2 shots in the fourth quarter against Denver. I think he got a few baskets late, but like just really not involved at all. And I just think this team's ceiling is capped, Anthony, if Anthony Davis is not a pivotal force in our, you know, our offensive attack.
I promise I have seen your guys' comments, especially the super ones. So I'm going to go ahead and get to that because it is time to segue over to Darvin. Like you mentioned, Raj, the idea that like this is something the Lakers are going to have to address. And we'll get to how they could potentially do so. And one thing that they haven't done in these 2 games here against Denver, against Sacramento, where AD was clearly struggling, something that they could have done, but they have chose not to. But Justin Tyndall with a super comment here, which means I get to like try to improve our moods with this. Justin Tyndall writes, it cracks me up that Bus and Pelinka hired a cheerleader, a guy who's incapable of in-game adjustments. Only Ham could be outscored by 34 in 13 minutes and 52 seconds after having a 19-point lead. He has no defensive game plan. He continues with another one, which means we get to do this again. He continues with another one saying, even if Bus fires him, which I doubt she will because it makes Pelinka, Kobe's guy, look bad, we'll take a player revolt. I have zero confidence this front office could find a good coach. I'll say this about the player revolt thing. And this is something I found really interesting. I have reported some pretty inflammatory stuff, right? You have LeBron saying, fuck that, in pertaining to some of the stuff that Darvin would like to run. You have somebody from the Lakers organization basically texting me and saying, holy shit, coaches can take accountability for stuff, after Ty Lue took accountability for the Clippers losing to the Lakers in historic fashion. You can go on down the line, right? You could talk about, you know, somebody else there that I spoke to, who was complaining that the Lakers couldn't beat a zone, a 2-3 zone, and how again Darvin took no accountability after not being able to beat Miami zone twice in 2 games. They weren't able to do that. And you know, that's like the stuff that I've reported, right? You have the Austin and Darvin stuff that I reported earlier this year as well. You have everything that the Athletic reported, earlier this year too. You know what's insane, Raj? Like we talk about like a player revolt. All of those details, several things go viral. Like any number of these reports go viral, and not once have we had a player stand up and be like, that's cap. These guys just report anything. No, right. Not once. Not what. Like I have reported, like, you know, a superstar saying F that about a coach's play that he wants to run coming out of a timeout. And like, this is a very like, you know, public persona aware person in LeBron. And even he's like, yeah, that's what happens, you know? and like, that is just insane. So like, I would say like, to the point of, you know, what would it take? What kind of a player revolt would it take? What else would it look like? Like, yeah. Where do you think we're getting this stuff from? You know, like I joke, right? I say this jokingly, but Shams and Jovan reported that 6 sources indicated to them that there is mistrust in the locker room with Darvin's ability to coach this team. There were 6 players who returned from last year's team. Like, that math is not all that difficult to do here. So, like, I don't know what a player revolt would look like other than this. Like, other than
Yeah.
this, you know. And
Yeah.
by the way, if you want to look for it in an even more obvious way, you want to get to you really figure out what this would look like. Tonight's what it would look like, right? The Lakers go up by 20. Darvin makes a couple stupid decisions there. He takes AD out early in the first quarter, earlier than he normally does there. He has Taurean Prince playing at the 4. The Kings, go on that, basically 40-point swing run that turns a 19-point lead into a 21-point deficit at one point. And the Lakers throughout that run basically looked like they were just, they were there watching the wave crash over them. They were just welcoming their fate.
Yeah. So no, first with all the stuff where you're, giving us a look inside the kitchen, and it's for some reason, Anthony, the kitchen you have is always burning down. Like the stove's never,
Not mine.
on the right.
Well, no, I almost did today. Cooked some fish today that was a little too oily, and my barbecue was like, it was nuts. It was freaking steelhead trout almost took down my house.
So I just moved into a new house, so I'm still kind of getting used to my oven and stove and stuff like that. But I feel like, the inside look into the Lakers kitchen at least is always on fire. The stove's never on right. The microwave door is always open.
Gordon
for
Ramsay's
some reason.
Yelling at everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's just it's all chaotic. But yeah, it's just I understand the wanting to just let Ham go. I can't get there yet on the players are actively revolting on the floor. At least I still think these players do want to win. And are they confused about their roles? Absolutely. I think that's the main confusion here. And that's the tough part. Like, I feel like, again, I was talking like a madman and people were calling me crazy, but I thought we had a good game plan against Denver. I thought that was solid. I thought it was a good decision. We started with Rui on Jokic, and I thought that was the correct, person to put on him. I thought the help defense was correct. And then Denver just looked in our eyes and saw the fear of God in the fourth quarter and just beat us. And they've done that 8 straight times now. And again, tonight, I thought our effort was good coming out against Sacramento. I thought, our defensive game plan was correct, and our stars didn't come through. But this game changed to me, Anthony. Our star. Excuse me. Anthony Davis still a star. Come on, he's still a star.
No. I'm saying the Lakers have 2 stars and one of them showed up.
One, yes. One did not, show up adequately tonight. But I thought, this we spent the whole time talking about AD so far. I still think this game changed, Anthony. My biggest frustration with Ham, because I think I've been a little bit more I think he still knows basketball to an extent. The Taurean Prince stuff is obviously maddening, but tonight this game changed. We gave up a 10-0 run to start, to end the first quarter, and that really coincided with Taurean coming in for D'Lo, and then we stuck him on maybe the quickest, most shiftiest guard in the league, in Malik, who can also shoot, right, in Malik Monk. And Taurean, in my opinion, his worst trait as a defender is a lock and trail guard. That's to me his worst trait as a defensive player, because I think Taurean can play defense in the right, in the right kind of system, the right role. But his worst role is as a chaser. That's his lock and trail position. That's his worst role. And we threw him on maybe the most shiftiest guard in Malik Monk. And then we pulled AD with 2 fouls, which again, those are decisions that coaches make in real time. So we pull AD and we put Jackson Hayes in. And Malik Monk gets to just cook Jackson Hayes for the end of that series. De'Aaron Fox gets to cook Jackson Hayes. Malik Monk gets to cook Jackson Hayes. And then to start the second quarter, Fox is like, you still have Hayes out here? And so Fox goes and cooks him, continues to cook him in the pick and roll. We cut a 17-point lead, is already down to, I think, 9 or 10 by the end of the first quarter. It's now Sacramento up by 3 or 4. And once those fires start, Anthony, it's just really tough to put those out. Fox and Monk, once you have them heating up and burning, you just can't put them out, correctly. And I thought that was kind of our downfall, along with the offense. We lost the second quarter 44-20. That means you're almost playing 4-on-5. That's how bad you have to play to lose a quarter by 24. Well, and just
AD was out there, so
that's not nice.
Speaking of Anthony Davis, we got another super chat here, which means we get to play this bad boy again. When Brandon Omeng writes, this game is on AD. Notice the difference between when Brown calls timeouts compared to Ham. Braun also gets injured when AD isn't pulling his weight. He continues with another one, which I got to play that one again, which means, his second comment here. Hate to say it. Oop, here we go. Hate to say it, but D'Lo only goes crazy when we're playing well or when we're winning or playing well or winning. When we're losing, there should be a period in there. When we're losing, he doesn't do much. I don't trust D'Lo at all. D'Lo tonight, 10 points on the night. I don't think scored in the second half in this one. And, I think there's something to it, right, Raj? Like we've joked all season basically about 15-point D'Lo, right? And all of that. But another thing, I don't want to let Darvin Ham off of the hook here either. Shocker to everybody who has listened to my show over the course of the year.
Because you really left him off a hook this year.
Yeah, I've done it so often. Yes, yeah. But I don't want to let Darvin off of the hook here as it pertains to Anthony Davis either, because this has been, 9 straight losses against Domantis Sabonis, 8 straight losses, to the Denver Nuggets with Nikola Jokic. We can keep on going. Nurkic has given AD issues all, throughout his career. Drummond, there's a certain type of center that gives Anthony Davis problems. And yet going into this one, you would think that would be figured into the game plan and you would get some minutes with Hayes and AD out there just to raise the collective size and the average size and just overall physicality out there on the court. But no, like the Lakers kept trotting out Spencer Dinwiddie, Austin, and D'Lo, and it was just the Lakers kept going small to match up with the Kings going small, and I just think like that's that's how Sacramento gets you, right? They go small and they entice you to go small, especially Darvin Ham, whose predilection is to always go small, and as soon as you do that, you are never going to be as good going small as Sacramento is, right? Just like you're never going to be as good going small as the Golden State Warriors are. And for the Lakers, like this has been the case all season. The Lakers that's why Denver is such a brutal matchup for the Lakers. It's because against every other team, the Lakers bully them and they beat them into submission. And they punish teams for going small against them. But every so often, Ham convinces himself, this is the night, buddy. This is it. Here we go. This is the night that we finally get to go small, and it's going to work for us this time. But it never does, because the Lakers don't have the personnel to take advantage of what you want to take advantage of when you go small. I don't understand never playing Hayes and AD together. I just don't get it.
I don't either. And the numbers even bear out that those are very successful lineups. And maybe it's just the Christian Wood injury. And like this has happened with their Vanderbilt injury too, where Darvin has kind of been like, look, if this guy's out, I'm just going to play this unit. And he subbed in Torian for Vando and had the Austin, D'Lo, and Torian kind of LeBron AD minutes really torpedo a lot of what has become a successful lineup. Like we lost tonight, but coming into tonight, the starting lineup was 9-2. Coming into this game, like that starting lineup with Rui in it. So yeah, I don't know. I would like to see like Jackson Hayes was not good tonight. Like he just could not defend the rim against Fox or Monk. But I did want to see 2 big lineups. We've been really, and this is kind of what we predicted, right? Once Spencer Dinwiddie, Anthony came on the team, it was like, look, there's just not enough minutes for our guards. So you were going to get 3 guard lineups. The most frustrating part of tonight to me was, so AD picks up his 4th. We're down 16 in the third quarter. There's like 7-8 minutes left. So AD comes out and we sub Torian in for AD, which now you're just, and this is with Fox and Monk just having
the very first play after Torian subs in.
Yes. But they've already even with AD in the game, they are just heat seeking the rim, right? Like just you cannot stop me getting to the basket. And we put Torian in for AD. So now he's like the power forward, or Rui's or the power forward. Anyway, you have a front line of LeBron, Rui, and Torian trying to stop Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox getting to rim. So yeah, Darvin has kind of lent to going more small. The sad part is when Hayes and Wood were healthy, Anthony, we kind of leaned big. Like when we were and Spencer Dinwiddie wasn't on the team yet, but we were kind of leaning more into these two big lineups, and that kind of that catapulted us to wins. Like that's really started our February off to where we were picking up wins because we went more big. We started playing more size. I think Cam Reddish was out at this
the in-season
time.
tournament, man, like we got back to just like suffocating. I compared the Lakers in that in-season tournament to a Komodo dragon eating a deer, because like it was just like and by the way, I stand by it. I'm sticking with the comparison here. When the Lakers are at their best, you get this kind of 1,000-mile stare from the other team where they're like, this sucks, right? We were talking earlier during the game about the big Nurkic played well against Jokic the other night, right? And Jokic looked gassed at the end of that game because he had to spend the entirety of that game getting leaned on by Nurkic in ways that almost no other big leans on Jokic, right? And that's why, by the way, it is absolutely insane to me that the Lakers did nothing to address this at the deadline. Absolutely. Like it would have cost you maybe a second rounder or another second rounder and one of Wood and Hayes, and you could maybe even both. I don't even care. You could have sent both of them out there, and you could have gotten back, whether it was Drummond or whatever, to get somebody in there with a little bit of size and girth to them so that, when this is going on, you have something else to go to instead of Anthony Davis continually just kind of hanging his head at the fact that he's getting punked again.
100%. Yeah. And we'd like to have another big. It's just, I think they went more with the extra guard to kind of stack their, skill on skill or strength on strength. And it's been tough. And I think Hayes has overall played well. But yeah, I would have liked another big out there next to AD. It's just, I'm not sure that would have, changed tonight. I thought also,
no,
Andy, I think Sacramento
nothing
just plays.
Changes when AD plays that way. Like I want to be like clear to everybody. Like there's nothing
for sure.
At this stage of the show, no matter what we bring up, there is nothing that would have changed the outcome of the game other than Anthony Davis playing better.
No, for sure. But I also think like Sacramento plays just at a pace to where like I think we just hate playing them. This is what our last regular season win against them was when Thomas Bryant was at center, because I think AD got hurt at during the half during that game, and we just ran Thomas Bryant, and Thomas Bryant's like, hey, I can run with Sabonis. I can beat him down the floor every single time.
High motor guy.
And high motor, yeah. And LeBron was, getting him dunks, and I think Thomas Bryant had like 30 and 15 or whatever, and that's how we beat Sacramento in just a fast-paced 130 to 125 win. I think we just hate playing their style of basketball, but you can't lose a 17-point lead in 2 minutes. Like that's just not how
such an insane number to say
against a team this good and this legit. Like a 17-point lead should go to 12 and 10, and then usually like a team musters enough energy to get that down to 10, is usually a little tired, and you're able to step back on the gas and take some command of the game. You just allowed, like if you put those runs together, Anthony, like the Kings went on a 54-20 run. Like you put the end of the first to the second, that's insane. That's a team absolutely dominating you for a 12-minute stretch. That's too long. That to me destroyed this game today. And look, I think AD was upset with the guards. The guards were getting beat off the dribble. Darvin Ham's quotes about wanting to force force Fox right and Monk left. Those dudes went wherever they wanted. Didn't look like we forced them anywhere. So that was frustrating.
Speaking of Ham quotes, this is a doozy. Darvin Ham, frustration makes cowards of us all. You try to get something back, you start going out on your own, you get preoccupied with something you can't control, like officiating. A lot of times it comes down to just playing harder. Oof. I will say this. We did get some accountability from Ham saying that he should have challenged Anthony Davis's fourth foul. That's progress, right? That was something that you and I and everybody on All Access Lakers tonight said live. It was like, you're nothing. This is the game. This is potentially your season, if you really think about it. You're not going to challenge this one. They wound up finishing the game with that challenge in their pockets. You would think with how much time Darvin's hands spend in those pockets, he would realize the assets that can be in there, whether it's timeouts or challenges or whatever. Apparently not. But yeah, the game plan was poor. The adjustments were poor. And like, I'm sorry. And kind of the final topic that we have here, at the bottom on your right, on the right side of your screen there, the Lakers aren't serious. They aren't. So long as Darvin Ham is their head coach, they aren't a serious organization. So long as they continue to just like stand by and say like, this is okay. He's the worst coach in the NBA. Like he's the worst. We could throw it up for debate. We could say, well, maybe it's Monty, maybe it's so and so, maybe it's this, maybe in that. The fact that Darvin is even in that conversation, I think, for the Lakers, they consider themselves exceptional, right? Lakers exceptionalism is like their marketing, their branding. You can't consider yourself exceptional when you have either objectively or arguably the worst coach in the NBA. And like in this one, I thought like, you mentioned bringing like Torian Prince played minutes at the 4 tonight again, and
Right.
you have Max Christie play like 5 good minutes in the first half, and then it takes forever to see him again in the second. Cam Reddish, who just a couple nights ago was closing a game in one of your other biggest games of the season, and then now all of a sudden he gets a DNP CD while he's healthy. It's just like there's no consistency, whether it's in terms of the roles that these guys play, or more importantly, the logic that like you can't piece together any consistent logic with any of these decisions.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm not on worst coach of the league, at least not yet. I feel like, Anthony, I saw too much last season to at least believe that there's actually something there. And yeah, the consistency
There's a
stuff
good coach
suck.
there somewhere. You're
There's
doing
there's
that,
a good
Raj?
coach in there. Well, I'm
No.
not doing that. I'm not, that's not what I'm doing. All I'm saying is like hold on, because I know people have been killing me online for this as well.
Yeah.
So I totally understand like this take seems absolutely insane. But like when I go back and watch some of these games,
So why
like
give
some of
it?
them, no. Here's a, I know it looks like I'm taking crazy pills, and
I know
I
this
swear I'm
sounds
not.
insane, but just listen, guys. I'm gonna get it this
No.
time.
Look, I'm not posting bail from anyone here. Like I'm not
That's
posting
fine.
bail out of my pockets for anyone. But all I'm saying is like I think there are basketball stuff that we do correctly, and a lot of the stuff is just I think that coaches sometimes. I'm not saying this is exactly what's happening, but sometimes it happens where GMs write checks that coaches have to cash, and sometimes I feel like that's some of the logic that goes on here. There is just no basketball reasoning for Max Christie to play 5 minutes a game. It's just there is none. We come on here and we get frustrated and pull our hair out. There is no basketball reason that Max Christie plays 5 minutes a game. There's just none. He's a good. He came out tonight and hit a spot up three. Like the only negative would be, hey, maybe Max doesn't shoot as well. Came into the freaking game, Anthony hit a three right away,
Yeah.
and then was good. And then we threw him on the best defensive matchup out there in De'Aaron Fox, which tells me that Darvin Ham at least believes Max Christie is one of his better defenders because he threw him
Yeah.
out there and he wasn't hiding him. Threw him on De'Aaron Fox. So Max Christie played pretty well, chased over on Fox, contested his jump shots, and then doesn't play till the middle of the third quarter. That stuff doesn't match logic. So what I'm saying is there's probably some politics going on. The Torian stuff I don't get. I don't know if that's another thing that we had to, promise. And I'm hopefully these promises are by now are kind of taken with we need to freaking win games. It just doesn't add up to me. And the Anthony Davis stuff, again, against Denver tonight, obviously I thought we lost this game because Darvin decided to throw Torian on Malik Monk. That sounds very simple, but I thought that just ended our game. AD obviously not coming through offensively is a reason why the game wasn't close at all. Like this should have been a game where you actually were fighting in it. But this game was lost to me because we threw Torian Prince on Malik Monk on purpose. Like out loud, that's an insane thing that we did. That's an absolutely insane. And then Austin, I thought fought over De'Aaron Fox, but like our defense, like we let Fox just see daylight off of every pick and roll, and it's just you give a guy with that much speed and a jump shot daylight, you're going to lose. But yeah, like against Denver, I thought that was a good game plan. And against OKC, I thought we did the correct things. Like that was the right way to play Shea, force him into tough dribble twos, and we did, and he missed, and like I thought we played them correctly. It's just tough to be at the point where it feels like I don't know if the buy-in is lost, but the team looked like it was quitting in the second half. Like I don't know what to make of that. That's on the coach. That's on the team. That's on a team that obviously feels they should be better than they are. But that team looks like it quit in the second half. There was no fight. Sacramento punched us, and I don't watch fighting sports, but like Sacramento punched us, and we laid down on the mat. What's it? A 15-second rule or 10-second, whatever rule it is that it is where you're out for. It felt like we just stood there and waited for the is it called referee empire or whatever it
It
is
was
in a
like
boxing?
it wasn't even like a haymaker, right? Like it was just
Okay,
like um
a jab.
to help with your boxing analogy, which
Yes,
like,
I went
you
all
want to
over
do
the place. Definitely.
we're gonna stick with one fighting sport here. But it was like the Lakers threw their series of haymakers, right? They had their
Right,
combo,
right, right.
right? Sacramento kind of shook their heads a little bit, shook it off a little bit, and then came with their kind of light combo of their own. And the Lakers were like, well, that's it. That's it for us, you know.
Yeah.
And like I would even go so far as to be like the referee as they're counting is like, I'm pretty sure you're fine. Like one,
Mhm.
you're good, right? Two, you're
There's no
checking your
blood.
phone. Three, like it is four. Like, are you sure? Like, you want to just stop? Five. I swear to God, you could get up at any point now. It's six. Like, and the Lakers are just like, like the Lakers are just like, no, we're good down here. The guy's like seven. No, but we have a fight to sell. Nope, we're good. Eight. No. Come on. It's just and yeah. And but by the way, like I think that is kind of indicative of something we don't want to acknowledge. I think a lot of these guys just kind of over it. You know, I think a lot of these guys is just like this season has been really frustrating. I don't think they believe in their head coach. There has been reporting all year that would indicate that he has lost the locker room. And this is what it looks like when a head coach loses the locker room. There is no response to adversity, right? They look fine when they're playing for themselves and they're playing well and everything's going great, right? That you know, you get like you get the front runner stuff that goes on when they have the positive momentum. But when you don't believe in your head coach and your head coach gives you no reason to believe in him, this is what it looks like. And tonight I thought, you know, it was pretty exemplary of everything that the Lakers have gone through, right? Like not just like their relationship with Darvin Ham, but the gap between floor and ceiling on this team. Anthony
Yeah.
Davis wilting in these physical matchups, D'Angelo Russell not showing up. Like there was a moment where it's like, all right, the Lakers have a little bit of momentum here. Maybe it's time to, D'Lo is pulling up for a 32-footer. Okay, fine,
One leg.
cool.
Yeah.
To continue, like it was 17 seconds on the shot clock. He's getting double
Right.
teamed at the 3-point line. It's time to fire away. It's just like there's just this is you know at some point, whether it's now, whether it's later in the year when people, whether maybe it's at the end of the year when you absolutely have to acknowledge it. But I would say for a long time now, the Lakers have gotten by on talent when they've played well. And I don't believe and the coaching, which is usually there to optimize that talent, hasn't done a good job of it. And nobody believes in that coaching. And this is what that would look like, whether it's not responding to any of the reports. Remember when the Athletic dropped their thing earlier this year, is a couple months ago,
Mhm.
and that came after mine, right? And the reporting I did on as far as like people in the organization wondering what's going on between Austin and Darvin, um, like on top of that stuff, when that was happening, the response came from Jeannie and Rob, the people who have stuff at stake. Jeannie, if they fire Darvin, she's on the hook for 2 years of Darvin's salary for nothing. If Pelinka fires Darvin, he is now the guy who passed on hiring Ty Lue, and then brought in Frank Vogel, um, just completely cut Vogel's legs out from under him with a bad roster, fired Vogel for an even worse coach in Darvin Ham, and now he has to make up for that track record in this next hire. So the people who were supporting Darvin Ham had a vested interest in their doing so, whereas the people who actually work with Darvin on a day-to-day basis, whether it's people throughout the organization that I speak to, whether it's players, whether it's people close to those people at no point did anything whatsoever to support their coach while he's out there drowning in all of these negative headlines. That has
Yeah.
to mean something. And when you see the response tonight, or the lack of a response tonight to the adversity that the Lakers went through, that's what that looks like. It's a team that doesn't believe in their head coach because the guy doesn't give them any reason to believe in him.
Yeah, and the backdrop of LeBron commenting, about every other coach in the league, isn't great, saying,
Yeah.
Ty Lue's amazing. That's Ty Lue's Clippers. And then obviously, Greg Popovich, he always gives, credit to as opposed that it's tough. And look, if Darvin's lost the locker room, I think that's obviously a reasoning that I think he'll be gone in the summer. It's just, it's tough when you look at, Darvin and what at least to me, Anthony, because I always look at from the basketball perspective, I think Darvin just overthought this season. And that's because I think that's not a guy that doesn't understand basketball. I think he just
No.
really galaxy brain this season for absolutely no reason. Jared Vanderbilt's injury obviously was a strike to the heart for the team. They obviously felt that he was a big part of it. They gave him a 4-year. I always say this about Vanderbilt on this show and other places. This is a guy that can't shoot, can't dribble, doesn't play make, got a 4-year $50 million deal because he's a hell of a defender. And that was really baked into their plans. When Vando went out, I think the just logical next step was, hey, let's start Rui Hachimura. Like, that's our next guy in line. That's the guy we paid. I highly doubt the front office gave Rui a 3-year, $50 million deal for him to average 17 minutes a game. I just don't see that. So I think it all started from there. Then you had benching Austin for Cam Reddish, which worked out for a little while, right? We won the IST. Cam Reddish was flying around defensively. And then Cam Reddish realized, like, this is probably not getting me, a big contract in the. I'm not being cynical in that. I think that's how players have to move just for their next contract. And then Anthony, we benched D'Lo and Austin together, which you broke that news where we started the wings all together, and that was just the most. What WTF are you doing point of the season? And I think from there it's kind of just been this rocky road, which again, that's the sad part is like I would like to give Darvin credit for giving Austin the ball in the playoffs. I'm like, hey, this is a guy you can run your playthrough. I would have liked to give him some props for, hey, let's put Vando on Draymond Green so we can switch the Steph Draymond pick and roll to kind of neutralize that. Like, I would like to, but he's completely showed this season that he actually didn't believe in that as much as it actually happened. And I think that's the most tough part for me to kind of logically process. But yeah, like Darvin's in a really just tough spot where again he has to have another kind of I don't call it a Cinderella run, but that's kind of what we have to do. I think I've seen the movie Cinderella. Like he has to go on this like Cinderella kind of run here again as the lower seed, and that's just a really tough position to be in a coach. So he's probably gone after this season. If the locker room is lost and it's lost, it's just the IST Anthony was 12 weeks ago. We came on here and called the Lakers a contender.
Yeah.
Right? Like that title contender.
Yeah.
I remember LeBron after the game. Yeah, LeBron after that game. This is the only quote, and I can't find it. I don't know if somebody deleted it from the internet or what, but it was the only quote where LeBron gave a positive comment to Darvin Ham. And I'm not sure I didn't make this up, but like I'm pretty sure I saw this where it was after the IST game, and LeBron said something to the nature of, "We did this for our coach Ham." And that was like the most positive that I can find from it. But it was something of that nature where like, yeah, we did it for Coach Ham. And I can't find that quote anywhere on the internet anymore.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I'm not going to lie.
I'm sure I saw that. Like, there's no way I dreamt that. It's not like I'm fantasizing about that.
I'm sorry to leave you hanging there, Rush, but I'm gonna Google LeBron James. We did it for Coach Ham and see what pops up.
I did, and I just cannot find it anywhere because there's everything else. Just LeBron doesn't believe in Ham, like article. But in any case, like there must have been some belief because the IST was a game where you had AD. Anthony, remember AD made that growling face when he was dominating Miles Turner? Like all of that stuff was, a part of a team that I think believed in each other and believed in the roster, or else they wouldn't have spanked the Pelicans by 40, or spanked the, Indiana Pacers by 15 that night. So it's tough to just 12 weeks later, we're in this position now where Darvin's probably gone and the roster probably flips again. And people are telling me Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to enjoy Atlanta or Cleveland. Like those are the comments I'm starting to get. So we'll see. But it's just tough that we're in this position just 12 weeks after a team that we both thought were title contenders.
Yeah, the headlines that came up report LeBron James rolls his eyes when Lakers coach Darvin Ham.
I know. Yeah, I cannot find it. I was pretty sure I've seen that. And again, I wouldn't. Like, obviously, I have no reason to make that up. That's just something I remember reading at the time. But again, just even if that was true, like that being a unicorn in the news just shows like I cannot find a single LeBron even something like, yeah, that was a good game plan tonight after a good blowout, after a blowout win. I cannot find one, and it shows that the kind of gap that has been placed between Darvin and his team.
Yeah, I think it's a situation worth monitoring, and like this is the kind of game that I talked to Sabrina 2 days ago, and I told her, I was like, they're coming off of this win against OKC, and they're finally giving everybody hope, but I can't quite get there. I can't quite believe in these guys because you just never know when this game is coming. Or in this case, you kind of do know that this game is coming, and Anthony Davis is, this Anthony Davis game is coming against that matchup or against that type of player. And I he's gonna AD is the kind of guy who's going to hold himself accountable. He probably did after the game say that this one was on him or whatever. I haven't been looking for those quotes while we've been live, but yeah, I can't take these guys seriously. I can't take this organization seriously, whether it's because of certain matchups that AD is going to face, whether it's because of the supporting cast, a supporting cast that, like, by the way, like, they have so many guards on their team right now because they knew coming into the season that they were eventually going to have to trade D'Lo and probably not get a guard back when they trade him, right? So now they're left with, if Gabe comes back, you're going to have D'Lo, you're going to have Gabe, you're going to have Spencer, you're going to have Austin. All those guys are going to expect minutes. Guess what that's going to mean? A lot more small ball units that, like, make the Lakers a worse team. And you mentioned, with Ham, how you want to give Darvin credit for, the stuff that he did in last year's postseason, but you can't quite because he went away from those things this year. Say the same thing about Rob Pelinka. You could give him credit for the championship in 2020, except he traded all those guys away for somebody who's like antithetical to what made that team special, right? In Russell Westbrook. So, like, in all of these cases, and it's frankly my biggest concern with these Lakers here moving forward. I remember when LeBron left Cleveland the second time, or was getting ready to potentially leave Cleveland for the second time. I remember asking the guys, whether it was Justin and Carter, who host their official pod over there with the Cavs now, or if it was people like with the organization then, do you think you guys have learned enough from your time with LeBron to win after LeBron? And nothing through this LeBron James and Anthony Davis era would indicate to me that that is the case with the people who are tasked with the post LeBron James and Anthony Davis era. You have Jeannie Buss, who trusts Rob Pelinka. I think that is an indication that she doesn't really know what she's doing. You have Rob Pelinka making bad coach, making the team worse with every coach he hires, and making the team worse with that Russell Westbrook trade. And yeah, you want to blame LeBron James, but trust me, look at all the players that the Lakers have acquired since they brought in Russell Westbrook. It's a lot of combo guards. It's a lot of bucket getters. That is like the idea that Rob Pelinka wasn't on board. And I'm here to tell you, like, I can report that it has been, I don't know if it's been reported as thoroughly as it should have been, but I'm here to report that Rob Pelinka was very much in on bringing in Russell Westbrook, the guy Kobe heralded as his, like, heir in terms of Mamba mentality and all of those things. I have legitimate concern, not about the rest of the season, not just about the rest of the season, but as far as the rest of, like, what this is going to look like after this season. They have a huge offseason ahead of them. And I don't know, like, how can you possibly make any kind of a decision as far as, like, what it looks like when you provide LeBron and AD with any kind of depth when your head coach has sunk that depth all year? So they're going to go back to the 3-star model, but the 3-star model was a disaster the last time they tried to do the 3-star model thing. I don't know, like, how to feel about this team here moving forward. And I know that, like, this probably isn't the night to have that conversation because of how low we feel coming off of that game. But this is, like, all of this stuff, like, this game to me is a perfect kind of amalgamation of all of my concerns, not just with this team as it's currently built, not just with this team with its current head coach, but also this entire organization under its current leadership.
Yeah, it's tough. And then, your last point here was the Lakers aren't serious. And again, tonight was another one where it's just like the tweet I had the other day where, I'm done and we're back. We're kind of flipped. I
First
thought
half,
we're
the
back.
first quarter, you're like, we're back. And then,
Yeah.
oh
And then
man, I'm done again.
after the first, we're done. That's the part that's the part that's so tough for me. And just because I actually liked Anthony, like I was on the minority of this, but I liked Frank Vogel, and I was kind of, preaching this while he was being, like nicely told get out the
Scapegoat.
door, or not nicely, but kicked out the door. I was like, his center's DeAndre Jordan, and his power forward is Carmelo Anthony, who's now doing his own podcast as well. Like DeAndre Jordan somehow still a center for the Nuggets who doesn't play. Like I thought Vogel, at least, again, Vogel's a coach where he's not the best coach in the league. I don't think you would call him that. I don't think I would call him that. But Vogel
No.
has principles that he follows by, right? He has a set baseline, which gives him at least a floor as a coach to where, okay, you know what you're getting out of a Frank Vogel team, right? Like the team's supposed to play hard. They have a set. They like a drop coverage defense that's very disciplined. So it's going to, give up baskets here at specific positions, but you know what you're going to get. And I thought Darvin was kind of following this where in the second half of last year, it's like, oh, he's having Vanderbilt fly around. You have Dennis Schroeder flying around, right? You're benching, D'Angelo Russell to kind of give you this ball pressure. And then this season, he starts Taurean Prince next to Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell for a full 30 or whatever games it was, even though the numbers are telling you in their face that
And
does
even
not
when he
work.
hasn't started them, it's a group that he keeps going back to.
Exactly. He's kind of gone to this really small unit to kind of give more ball handling out there when the team is just absolutely getting roasted in those units. And the reason that IST worked, and I don't think it was, I mean, Cam Reddish played well, but it was kind of this, remember Anthony Vanderbilt came back during that time, and it was like, it was Cam Reddish, Vanderbilt, and Max Christie all
And
playing.
Max.
We're like, oh,
yeah.
And we're like, holy crap. We have three
This is
maybe
it.
really top defensive wings. And then Rui was obviously having a role, right? Rui was coming off the bench, but he was, getting shots and he was being physical and big. We're like, oh, this is like the way. This is the, this is the successful formula. And then when like eventually we benched our guards and we're like, we leaned all the way into our, it's been a very strange season in terms of the process. We are starting to win now. I mean, we're 9-3 in our, or 9-4 in our last 13 games, and we've somehow dropped in the standings or whatever, but due to the Western Conference. But yeah, it's tough. I don't know where this team goes. My last thing though, what I'll say is, like you said, the 3-star build doesn't work. I think the 3-star build didn't work because one of them wasn't a star anymore. And I think like that's one of the main reasons that 3-star didn't, but that's not a route I want to go down. I don't trust the team to build around that in any successful manner. So like, and we just picked a route. Like we had a fork in the road. I don't know if I've ever actually seen a fork in the road, but we had a fork in the road, and
you
we
picked
an
actual fork.
Yeah. But we
do I go right or left? Ah, crap! I ran into the fork.
We had a fork in the road, and we picked a route. We picked the contracts with mid-level contracts to surround LeBron and AD. Like I would hate if we actually absolutely went totally away from that, because I do think that's the correct formula. It's just the guys that we've gotten haven't played. We traded for Malik Beasley and let him walk for nothing. We traded THT for Patrick Beverly from Mo Bamba, and then let Mo Bamba walk for nothing. It's become a very strange kind of route that we've taken. But yeah, it's tough to get to the point now.
Quietly strip down the roster in terms of contracts.
Yes.
And they keep making it cheaper, and nobody seems to acknowledge this. I remember. So it was funny. I was, and I know how Lakers fans feel about Tim Bontemps. He's been incredibly nice to me, so I'm not going to say anything negative about against him. But he and I were DMing back and forth, and I told him, I was like, dude, how haven't you pointed this out? The Lakers could potentially duck the tax this year. Now they didn't. They wound up, bringing somebody in, and they didn't do anything at the deadline to get under the tax. Though at this point, you kind of wish they would have, so that they could have, they don't face the repeater next year. But anyway, like, I bring that up to Bontemps in DMs, and then he and Windhorst wind up bringing it up on their show as well. And it's like, if whether or not like they actually get under the tax or whatever, that is kind of secondary to the point of like the lower your your cap sits at, your cap number sits at, that reduces your margin for error, right? So had they brought back Malik Beasley, maybe he doesn't have the season that he's having for Milwaukee, but maybe he does, right? He said that he was having personal stuff in his life last year that was affecting the way that he was able to play for the Lakers. And it's like, okay, if he maybe gets that figured out, maybe he is a legit, shooting threat off the move shooting threat that the Lakers
Yes.
have really missed this year. Mo Bamba, like, I think is a better center than either Jackson Hayes or Christian Wood. And even if you don't feel like he is, he's an expiring contract that, like, clearly at the deadline, the Lakers weren't able to do anything at the deadline because they didn't have any expiring contracts they could move. And it's maddening to, like, sit here and basically feel like I'm sitting on an island pointing out, like, guys, this team got way cheaper. Can we maybe put this out? Can we maybe talk a little bit about the fact that these guys keep getting cheaper? They won their championship and then they brought in Russell Westbrook, and technically they would have been more expensive had they traded KCP. No, I think it was Kuz and Trez for Healed, and they would have kept KCP
Yes.
in that situation. And they technically would have been more expensive had they pursued that path. And by bringing in Russell Westbrook, and especially after you bring in Russell Westbrook and let Caruso walk for nothing, the Lakers actually became a cheaper team that next year. And then also, I believe, and then this year, right, they hard capped themselves, which makes you even cheaper than everybody else. And it's just like, at some point here, you got to kind of address reality as it currently exists. And, like, yeah, if your team is less expensive than everybody else in this capped sport, where talent is the more talent that you have, the more expensive your roster is going to be. This is what you're facing, and usually you hope to make up for that in the margins. But as I've been told, by everybody who pays any attention to what the Lakers are doing throughout the league, they're all saying, like, yeah, they don't give a shit about the margins. It's Lakers exceptionalism. We're going to go as far as our stars take us. And it's like, okay, but you're mediocre while LeBron and AD have been here for 5-6 years now in the regular season. And yeah, you have a title to show for it, but that only adds to the frustration for me, right? Like, the fact that the times that you've gotten to the playoffs with an even remotely sensible roster, won a championship, and you've made it to the Western Conference Finals. It's like, maybe do that more often. Maybe try that out more often.
Yeah, it all stems to me. Just again, this is just the overreaction to the loss against Phoenix in 2021, right? It's just you overreact to that. It's funny because I remember when Denver traded for KCP. I forgot who said it. Like, Denver got their guy, and I was like, I can't imagine what Denver thought when the Lakers traded KCP to Washington, and they just their eyes probably got like, look at what they just did. So we
I
just
texted
kind of
Adam. Like, I told Adam, I was
Yeah.
like, "Do you guys just won the championship?" Like,
Yeah.
like, if you just think about it as simple as, because Denver, was it a 5 or a 6 game series? It was a 5 game
Against
series
us?
against
5.
uh-huh.
Mhm.
So it was a
5.
5 game series, but AD hits that
Game
game
winner.
winner, right? That you could have lost that one. It could have been a 6 game series or whatever. Just like, if we're the people who say it was a close sweep
Yes,
last
I
year,
was gonna say that.
they get to also say it was a close 5 game series
Right.
the time they faced them before. And I told Adam, I was like, if you basically take KCP off of the Lakers and put him on Denver, that is probably enough to win you an extra game. And if AD doesn't make that 3-pointer, or if AD doesn't shoot like Peja Stojakovic in that series from 3, now all of a
Exactly.
sudden that margin for error is shrunk even further. If not, and then, by the way, on top of AD no longer shooting like Peja Stojakovic the way that he did in that bubble, now you have Jokic being the best player in the world. And that's why the Lakers go from beating them in 5 2 years prior to getting swept by them in last year's Western Conference Finals. And that's why I was, like, rooting really hard for the Lakers to maybe get Bruce Brown, right? And that's why the Lakers wanted to go out and get Bruce Brown, right? Because you make your competition worse and you get better. Unfortunately, he got paid the way that he did by Indiana, and then the Lakers didn't want to give up a first rounder for him when he was in Toronto at the deadline. And you don't make that improvement on your roster, and now we'll see how this season turns out. But yeah, it's so annoying to basically sit here and watch two all-timers. And you guys heard me talk about Anthony Davis at the beginning of the show. I can be just as frustrated, probably more frustrated with Anthony Davis than just about anybody else. But I also acknowledge he's one of the most talented basketball players I will ever see. And you have him and you have LeBron James, for my money, the guy who has had the best career in the history of the sport, whether you want to call him the GOAT or somewhere close in that conversation, whatever. The Lakers have had both of those guys in their extended primes and have a lot of mediocre regular season basketball to show for it.
Yeah, and what's the toughest part I think with this season, because this isn't like the beginning of last year, right? I think most people were like, you just got to get through the All-Star break, and then after that you can, once you make your trade. But this season, this is a roster that I think most people, if you polled them, they believe in the roster, right? Like I think most people, they believe at least in the team, and in the playoffs. Like this is why I was upset when they let Beasley and Bamba go, because I know they aren't playoff guys, but you just needed regular season guys
Innings
to like
eaters.
hold you up. Yeah, innings eaters to kind of hold you up. We need a basketball term for that, by the way. But like we need guys to like that keep you going, during the season. And I loved Beasley at least in the regular season, a movement shooter that you talked about. I did a video once when he came here. I was like, we haven't had a guy who moves and shoots off, pin downs like this in forever. D'Lo doesn't really do that. Austin's not really that type of guy, and just let those guys walk. And I think that's like a domino effect to where we've gotten. But you talked about the margins, and I think that's part of it as well. And I do think they believed in Gabe Vincent. Like we just watched Gabe Vincent torch the Boston Celtics, in the playoffs. A lot of that was good jump shooting, but I thought he also kind of created his shot in a way that would have helped this team. Obviously, Vanderbilt's injury is just a tough one, to attack. But I think like when you get down and you list our top like 7 guys, I think those are guys most people would go to war with. I mean, you obviously Austin and Rui and Vanderbilt when he's healthy around LeBron and AD, like that's part of your big 5, and then you just can kind of supplement around that. I think most people would at least buy that, and for the team to be where they are, the 10 seed now, and probably going to walk in the playoffs as a 10 seed. Like the Warriors are just playing too well. Your next game against Sacramento is on the road, and the other people realize we play the Bucks on Friday and then Minnesota on Sunday. Like this gets worse, not better. Like those are 2 teams that are better than this Kings team and are big, right? Giannis is huge and he gives AD trouble too. Sometimes he's on Giannis, but Brook Lopez also, like, he's not as physical, but a big dude that gives us trouble. Milwaukee, another team that forces us into jump shots, at least when Bud was the coach. We'll see what Doc Rivers does. And then Sunday, it's freaking Minnesota with Gobert and Towns, who takes the AD matchup personally for whatever reason it is. He just does. He's big and physical and loud, very loud. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's right. I remember going to a game, Wolves Lakers, and Towns was just so loud, like every play, screaming after every and one. They blew us out, like at home. We were down like 18 or whatever in third quarter. But any case, these are tough games coming up. So we'll see. I think this week kind of decides our fate here. Maybe it's already decided, but yeah, tough to stomach this one for sure.
Yeah, this was a big one, and it's gonna sting for a little bit. I people who've watched me on All Access Lakers and they've watched us on All Access Lakers, right? I don't think they have ever seen us as like downtrodden as we were when Torian entered the game for AD after AD picked up his 4th foul. Because that was it, right? That was the game.
Yeah.
The game was decided right there and then. You don't challenge the foul and maybe avoid AD picking up his 4th. And then on top of that, you take AD out of the game. And it's like AD wasn't playing good, but he wasn't Jackson Hayes either. And then as soon as Torian gets in there and LeBron is your 5, De'Aaron immediately marches to the rim, and it was just over after that. And whether this is the moment that the Lakers season, you look back on it and you say this is the moment that their season essentially ended. if they wind up at the 10 spot instead of like the 9 or the 8 or the 7 or whatever. Or if like, look, man, I'm not willing to give up on Houston making a bit of a run here at the end of the season. They're too young to not realize that they shouldn't, and
Sure.
they aren't like tanking. They aren't,
No.
you don't see like the phantom injuries with them as you'll see from some other teams down the stretch of this game or this season. And, whatever it looks like or whatever the final outcome of the season might be, I'm going to look back on this season. I already feel like it's a missed opportunity. You had LeBron and AD healthy for the vast majority of a season, and you don't really have anything to show for it. And it looks like you're not going to have anything to show for it. And at no point did you make any adjustment to avoid that fate, right? At no point did you do anything to alter the course there to give these guys a better chance at this. And yeah, some of it is on them. Some of that is AD having games like this, and they are also somewhat culpable in all of this as well. But I still think at the end of the day, like this game was just like a perfect summary and a perfectly painful summary of all of those failings. But Raj, we've been talking here for an hour and 15 minutes. This is a record show for us. We have 3,200 people in here watching us right now. That is far.
Wow.
It's at the point where I think the counting might be broken. But just in case it isn't, please do, if you are here on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button and the like button and all of those things. If you're watching on Twitter, please head on over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button and the like button as well. If you are listening in the morning to this in podcast form, please subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcasts, preferably Odyssey, and catch us wherever it is that you find us talking about these godforsaken Lakers. Until the next time you guys hear from us, which will be tomorrow. Aaron and I are going to be talking tomorrow, and I'm probably going to text him after this and be like, just get a bottle of your delicious cognac that will remain unnamed until we are actually sponsored. Hilariously, Hennessy is a sponsor of Vox. After we finally left. But yeah, Raj, thank you a ton for sitting in here and having this conversation. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. If this number is actually true. And yeah, I am Anthony Irwin of LakersDaily.com. That is Raj of All Access Lakers, Lakers Detailed, and hopefully soon officially this channel as well. Saying have a great rest of your night, make somebody else's, and I will talk to you guys in the afternoon tomorrow.
Can I get one field goal, JHS? Just give me one.